Very young in the combat. However, all Americans should never forget the brave men who answered our nation's call to serve and serve the cause of freedom in a very special way. I would like to ask you to stand and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer as the honor guard from Rancho High School places the flag service colors and the civilian cap on each of you.
The hats from the four services reminds us of the unity of purpose shared by our comrades in Please be seated. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to duty. The single red rose, displayed in a vase, reminds us of the life of each of the missing and the loved ones and friends of these Americans who keep the faith awaiting answers. The vase is tied with a red ribbon, symbol of our continued determination to account for our missing. A slice of lemon on a bread plate is to remind us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears endured by those missing and their families who seek answers. The bound text is a book of faith to represent the strength gained from the devotion to sustain those lost from our country. A lit candle symbolizes a light of hope that lives in the hearts to illuminate the missing's way home. The glasses are inverted. to symbolize their inability to share this evening's toast. The chairs are empty. They are missing. Now, let us charge our water glasses in toast to honor America's prisoners of war and missing in action, and to the success of our efforts to account for them. Honor guard, be seated. This evening, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to our keynote speaker for the 24th Annual Aircrew Life Support and Aircrew Flight Equipment Veterans and Retirees Reunion. He is Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Tony Marshall. Tony Marshall was born in Washington, D.C. in 1946 and raised on a tobacco farm in nearby Maryland. He graduated from Frederick Douglass High School, Upper Marlboro, Maryland in 1964, and was accepted by the United States Air Force Academy, graduating in 1968. He completed navigator training and electronic warfare training and was assigned to the F-4 fighter aircraft. Following training at MacDill Air Force Base, Florida, he was assigned to the 13th Fighter Squadron, Udon Air Base, Thailand, flying combat missions in Southeast Asia. On his 266th mission, he was forced to eject over enemy territory and was captured. A captain at the time, Tony was held as a POW from July 3rd, 1972 until his release on March 29th, 1973. Upon his return to active duty, Captain Marshall completed pilot training and was assigned to the F-4C at George Air Force Base in California. He also flew the F-4D at Royal Air Force Bentwaters, England, and then served as an air liaison officer with the U.S. Army in Frankfurt, Germany. He returned to the cockpit flying the F-4G Wild Weasel at Clark Air Base in the Philippines and also at George Air Force Base, California. After 22 years of service, he retired as a lieutenant colonel, command pilot, with 480 hours of combat time, 3,000 hours in the F-4, and 3,600 hours total military flying time. His military awards include 4 Distinguished Flying Crosses, the Purple Heart, the Prisoner of War Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and 16 Air Medals. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics and a master's degree in business management. Following his retirement from active duty in 1990, Tony was hired by United Airlines and logged 12,000 hours flying the DC-10, B-747, and A320 aircraft out of Los Angeles. He retired from United in December of 2006 and currently resides in Apple Valley, California, and he has 1 daughter, Maria. Tony served as a substitute teacher for 10 years and currently volunteers as a mentor at the Academy for Academic Excellence in Apple Valley, Millionaire Mind Kids of Victorville, and Tomorrow's Aeronautical Museum in Compton. He is also president of the California chapter of Shades of Blue. He is a member of the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals and a member of the Los Angeles chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in a warm reunion welcome for Lieutenant Colonel Tony Marshall.
Okay, thanks. Welcome aboard. First, I'd like to thank you all, because without life support, I wouldn't be here to tell you these lies. So you can see that slide up there. So the disclaimers are up there. If you're sensitive, leave the room now. Okay, next slide. So we can see. Okay, those are the rules I've lived by. That's distilled from 72 years of life. And the basic line is, don't ask the question if you can't stand the answer. Next slide. That's the key to my life. My mother is nominated for sainthood. Next slide. She had some very simple rules. Whenever we asked a question, it was unique, just because I said so. There was no more questioning. When I told her that I wanted to fly, you know, she came up with those two things there. And yet she would take me out to the airport and let me watch airplanes. She would let me build model airplanes and all that. And the last one is very profound. When she was on her deathbed, I went to visit her. She had a couple of tasks for me to do. And I took care of them. Stopped by to see her. Visiting hours were over. I said, I'll see you in the morning. She said, no, you won't. She said, I've made my peace with God. I've lived my life fully. I've lived a full life. It's my time to go. When it's your time to go, you don't get to ask for an extra minute, extra hour, anything. She said, all you're going to do is do a death watch, come in here every morning, see if I'm still alive. So take your butt on home. What's your problem? Whoa. Okay, next slide. Very simple. All of you are military, you know that. Military teaches you some great answers. Next slide. That's my outfit. And you can see me there with that mascot, Eldridge. Great mascot. Eldridge liked to play. His playing involved chasing you. If you ran, you were a target. If you turned around and looked at him, he would just stop and wait for you to run again. Great cat. Next slide. This is where life support comes in. They gave us the most useless weapon we ever had. That's all right. It's a .38. Useless. So I carried the thing unloaded. Except one day I got a hold of some steel jacketed bullets. And I said, if I'm going out in style. Unfortunately, my life support guys took them away from me. They told me they were against it. So I went back to carrying the damn thing unloaded. Next slide. I had a hypoxia incident, and it wasn't life support's fault. But we were climbing out one night, and as we climbed through about 25,000 feet, my pilot said, do you notice anything unusual? I said, no. Because I was busy watching the seven-headed dragon sitting on the canopy. I was mesmerized. Luckily, he recognized his symptoms of hypoxia and took us back down. Turns out the oxygen system had failed in the airplane. But that was it. And then the other thing, a couple of times I came back from a mission, I went to unstrap and found out that I hadn't been strapped in the whole mission. Empty feeling. Again, not life support fault, just my chief at the end of the runway. Next slide. The ejection. So that's what you're all interested in. A couple of things about the ejection. The seat worked perfectly, thank God. Okay, but there were some other things that we had a problem with. I don't know if you're familiar with I know some of you are familiar with the Martin Baker seat, the banana links. But we used to have a little film canister. And if that got loose, it always ended up back in the banana links. So that if you open the canopy, it was going to fire the seat. So That was not good. But like I say, the seat worked great. Next slide. I'll get back to the ejection. When we ejected, we were either out of the envelope or on the edge of the envelope, somewhere on that line. We figured we were doing 550 knots, 3,500 feet in a dive. Yeah. But like I say, the seat worked great. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any warning. We were diving, which we shouldn't have been doing, at least not that low. The airplane went out of control. We think the centerline tank collapsed, put it out of control. He didn't have time to say anything. He just pulled the handles. And the sequence was I go and then he goes. So what I experienced was, I'm sitting, I would say I was minding my own business, but I like to take pictures, so I was changing the roll of film because it was going to be a great fireworks show. So I'm sitting here doing this, and all of a sudden something goes boom. Hey, what the? And as far as I got in that was, you heard something, but you didn't feel anything. And I'm out of the airplane. So the whole world went white because I didn't have my visor down. Luckily, I stayed in ejection posture. And I'm out of the airplane and on the ground. We'll get back to that later. Next slide. That's our theater of operations. You can see Udoran up there in the northern part of Thailand. We were the closest base to North Vietnam. The purple triangle is the plane of jars, the PDJ. And then you can see the fish's mouth up there on the direct line between Udoran and Hanoi. Next slide. All right. My squadron was great. We had some great rules. Get the mission done, bring everybody home, and if a MiG gets in your way and it gets to be a problem, shoot him down. But out of my 266 missions, on 265 of them, we brought back everybody we took off with. Very proud of that. Last one, oh well. And bottom line is, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. Next slide. We had some pretty stupid rules, not rules, but beliefs. Nobody wanted to get captured and tortured. So we basically came up with 3 solutions. Ride the airplane in, save one bullet and blow your brains out, or start a land war you can't win. The first 2 were out. There was no way I was going to do those. Third one, luckily I was in shock, so I didn't get to do that. But a lot of folks made that mistake. So that was not. But if it's not your day, that's the way it goes. But if you get caught, you don't want to get caught, and it's never going to happen to you, because when I went through Clark, they said, take a look at either side of you, because 1 out of 3 of you is going to have an abnormal tour. Abnormal tour meaning shot down and captured, shot down and killed, or shot down and rescued. And I looked at the 2 dudes next to me. They were looking at me. But I made it through a normal tour okay. So all 3 of us made it okay. It was like a fool, I decided to extend. So that was that. But if you get caught, everybody has a built-in coping mechanism. Some people are very religious. I mean, I've heard guys talking to God on the way down in the chute. Some people hate rice and hate Vietnamese. Me, I had a sense of humor. And you're going to realize that I'm crazy, because this will come up a lot. Go ahead. That was the day we lost 4 airplanes. The red lines are the MiGs coming out to get us. The blue orbit is us. The green orbit is a triple nickel. And that X over there to the left is where the first airplane went in that morning. Just never pulled off a pass, went straight into the ground. But anyway, we're up there, and the black line is the flight I was supposed to be in. We had our chief of standards and evaluation, and a young guy in his back seat, a young guy on the wing, and I was supposed to be in the back seat, but they pulled me out. But anyway, they dropped their bombs and went chasing after a MiG against the rules. And the MiG kept them right at max range and lured them into a trap. So we're sitting in our orbit up there, and we heard the MiG calls coming out. They're coming north of us, coming south of us, they're coming directly at us. So my flight pilot said, you know, if you want the lead, you're going to have to push it up, because we were number 2. We passed number 1. So we decided to go a little faster and get to fighting speed. Because as dumb as we were up there at loiter speed, max endurance. You can't fight, you can't do anything except survive. But when he pushed it up, that made the difference in our orbit, because the MiGs went around us and picked off the guy in the other orbit. And then the 2 guys that went chasing the MiGs in, we got a call that said, I'm out of gas, I've dodged every kind of AAA they've got, I've done SAM breaks, and every time I come out of a SAM break, I'm over an airfield. Every light on, the emergency light panel's on, and we're bailing out. So they bailed out. The other plane that I was supposed to be in decided it looked better to go to the water. They headed out. The airplane ran out of gas. They bailed out and went to jail. But the 2 that turned back did get rescued. So we went up to see them the next day. Now, aside to that story, all right, go forward. Yeah. Okay. That was another mission where we went up chasing MiGs, and we scrambled. We had a 5-minute alert pad. You have 5 minutes to be airborne when the horn blows. So we go scrambling up. You strap in on the way out as you climb out. And just as we get up toward the fish's mouth, they said, threat's gone. Take up an orbit over the PDJ, which would normally be a left turn. But we had the secret gear where I could see the MiGs, and I had indications on the right side that there were MiGs coming after us. So I had my pilot turn right, which was a long way around. Still couldn't break them out on the radar, so we headed west. As we rolled out heading west, we got a call with our call sign, brake hard, they're on your ass shooting. So we broke hard right, came back around, I'm back in the scope trying to find the radar. And I also said we need to go down because we fight better at low altitude. So I'm trying, I'm tweaking, peaking, I cannot get a radar lock. So finally I tell my pilot, look out the window at 2 o'clock, 1 mile, you're going to see a MiG. I looked out the window at 1 o'clock at 1 mile, there was a MiG-21. Beautiful airplane, I was mesmerized. Bright silver airplane, big red star on a patch. Like, wow. I took my camera and took a picture. That's a different story because it didn't work. At the same time, he shot an ATOL missile, and I think, who's he shooting at? He's going downhill. We're going downhill. We're head on. It's a heat-seeking missile. It has to come from behind. Oh, boy, we had a wingman over there. So I look over there, and my wingman's still there. Again, dumb. We're flying like this. He is useless. He's just hanging on for dear life. So while I'm looking back, I see 2 more missile trails go overhead, follow them back. MiG-21 is turned in front of us. I tell my front seater, if you just pull the nose up, go heat, you got him. Wingman calls bingo, which means I'm out of gas. Fight's over. So we turned right, went out to the PDJ and went home. And, you know, we're just telling war stories, shooting our watches off. Well, this was great, you know. And the film interpreter comes in and says, you guys don't know how close you came to dying today. I said, oh, bull. We know what we did. So he runs my radar film, and I said, yep, it's just like we said it. And then he rewinds it and winds it at half speed. And when you go at half speed, as soon as we roll out of that brake turn, it's a MiG-19 going down the east side of the scope. So they had set us up, as they usually did. We come up, there's a threat there, the threat disappears, but there's another guy waiting down low. We turn, they pop up and shoot us. I asked my wingman, what did he see during all this? He said he didn't see anything until we were running out toward the PDJ, and he looked back and you see a MiG-21 looking for us. The story gets even better. I get curious because I want to know who warned us. So make some calls, and I get a hold of the guy that actually gave us the warning. Thank you very much. You saved our bacon. I just want to know when you knew they were back there. And the guy laughed. He said, oh, we heard them briefing for takeoff. We heard them get vectored on you. We heard them get cleared to fire. So my immediate question is, why couldn't you have told us earlier? It's a secret. If I had told you, that would have let them know that we know. And I was pissed about that for about 20 years until I was watching the History Channel one day and we broke the Germans' code, submarine code, but we still let convoys get shot up because we didn't want the Germans to know that we had broken their codes. So that's just the way it goes some days. Some days you eat the bear and some days the bear eats you. You may be the sacrificial one. But anyway, next slide. Oop, I'm back. Okay, that's all that. Same thing, Robin Olds in his book details a similar incident where he found out something that they kept secret. And that's what that's about. It's the MiGs were told at a certain signal they would all disappear below 3,000 feet. Anybody that stayed up above that was getting shot by SAMs. They never told us that. Secret. Okay, next slide. That's that airplane in the upper left is the actual one we dropped in the bushes that day. The guy on the left is my pilot who did not come back. He, well, not probably, he decided to shoot it out with him. I got captured. He decided to shoot it out. Didn't make it. Again, option 3, suicide by police. But he had already told people he would never be taken alive. And the centerline tank in the lower right is what we think gave way on the airplane and put us out of control. Next slide. That's a little humor. Next slide. More humor. Again, you got to volunteer to fly airplanes. You got to fight like hell to get a fighter. You got to volunteer to go to combat. So if anything happens to you, whose fault is it? Yours. Next slide. That was me. That was not the way I was captured, but they went back and staged it for propaganda. Cute little girl in the black pajamas. Next slide is the mug shot. I was supposed to look down, and they finally gave up on me. Next slide. The Hilton, the infamous Hilton. Next one. The zoo, which is where I was most of the time. They had a system where if they thought you were an easy mark, they would send you to the zoo. So if you were recently shot down, you weren't injured, and you liked to talk, they would send you to their show camp, which is where they brought all the hippies and news people and everything. They found they had made a mistake with me, but that was it. Next slide. Anybody ever see that film, The Spy in the Hanoi Hilton? No. Somebody has seen it? No. Anyway, I can't tell you much about it, but they had a communication system where you could get messages out to the CIA and the government. I was a part of that. That's all I can tell you. But we could let the government know what was going on. Next slide. Oh, okay. So they throw me in jail, and the guy's first thing he says is, we're in the Orient now, we stand on politeness. If someone enters your cell, you stand up. Okay, I can do that. I was not going to get beat for bowing, because the old guys, and I call them the old guys, the guys that were there for 7 or 8 years, got the snot beat out of them because they wouldn't bow. I wouldn't have any problem bowing. But he said you stand when somebody comes in. Then he comes in and says, would you like to write a letter home? I said, sure. But you can't do anything to it. So I write the letter. They come back with red marks all over it. And we go through about 7 iterations before we get something out that can pass both of us. Everything in red is on there on purpose for communication. Because I'm good at English, so the mistakes are on purpose. Next slide. That's the story they put out. I changed his name to something close. I told them I was a combat photographer on my first mission. They believed it. I just told a bunch of lies, and it seemed to work with me. Next one. Yeah. Everything in red is mistake or purpose mistake. Next slide. Chuck Jackson was another Academy grad. I had never seen him before in my life, but it makes a good story to say we're old friends. Oh, Angela Davis. They got a kick out of Angela Davis because she was a communist supporter. I said, oh, I got a girlfriend who looks exactly like Angela Davis. And that triggered something in them because in their society you didn't have girlfriends. Your parents picked who you're going to marry. So I made up 14 different girlfriends on the 5 days it took me to get up the trail. That wasn't good enough, so I created a wife and a kid. I had my mother send me a picture of my goddaughter. The interesting thing is when they released us, they came in and said, here's your wedding ring. Turns out it was my pilot's wedding ring. But they're so anal about not being accused of stealing anything, they gave it to me. Because, again, in the Orient, the last story you tell is what they believe. Okay, they're real big on saving face. So they wouldn't come back and say, well, you said this yesterday and you said this today. So that I got a lot of mileage out of that. But it was interesting. Next slide. Those are the battles. I won't have time to go into all of them, but if it was in red, I lost. If it was in green, it was I won. Now I will go into some of them. I wanted a mosquito net because mosquitoes love me. They said you'll get one when your mind is right. Everybody else got one automatically, but because I was a troublemaker, they messed with me. The mustache, they said you have to shave your mustache off because only monkeys have hair on their face. So I shaved it off without thinking. Then they came in and said, you got to get a haircut. And I said, nope, I'm not going to get a haircut. I can pack my stuff down. So I never got a haircut the whole time I was up there. I had a beautiful afro when I came out. Dossier. We had my buddies distract the guy who gave out the packages one day, and I went into their files. They had information on me that I never gave them. So all those hometown news releases go straight to the Soviet embassy. And they have full dossier on all of us. So, and then the release date, everybody was supposed to be released in 4 groups. Sick, wounded, and old as hell go first. So being a junior class, I was going to be in the last group. They came in the day before we were supposed to leave and said, oh, your side's violating the agreement, we're going to have to keep some of you. So they lined us up. The guy in front of me got to get on the airplane, me and 59 others got to stay. It's only an extra day because we had seen Walter Cronkite, so we knew we were going home. But just one more chance to mess with us. Leroy was one of the funnier stories, and like I said, I have a sense of humor that won't quit, but there were some other guys in the group that were just as crazy as I was. The guy that brought our food in always said "lay oi" before he opened the gate. What that means in French, I don't know, but I guess it's, heads up. So we called him Leroy. So one day Leroy is coming with the food. Chuck, who smoked, got 2 of his buddies who also smoked, and they blew smoke into my afro. And they put their cigarettes out and disappeared. Leroy opens the gate and my head starts smoking. Leroy flipped out, dumped the food on the ground, went yelling and screaming. Of course, when he brings everybody back, everything's normal. But that was how we messed with him sometimes. The early release, they released 3 guys in September, and they said that I was on the list to be released, but I was such a butthole that they would never release me. But they wanted some color in the group, so they released the other black guy in the camp. Next one. That's me getting a letter from home. If you didn't fill out a bio, you didn't get mail. Go ahead. That's us waiting to get on the airplane to leave. Next one. Cultural differences. You have to understand your enemy or whoever you're dealing with, but saving face in the Orient was paramount. So if I ask your name and you say your name is Donald Duck, I'm happy because I got an answer. If you say I'm not going to tell you, I got to beat you. It's weird. So you could get away with anything. They said they had been at war for 1,000 years, so we were just a pimple. They weren't worried about us. If an airplane went down, the villagers were supposed to turn in the pilot unharmed. They can take out their frustrations on him. They didn't get an extra bag of rice for Captain 2. They refused to believe that you could have more than one newspaper in a city, one girlfriend, and one good deed erases 100 bad deeds. So they were very perturbed when the old guys came home and started talking about torture. He said, we were nice to you the last 6 months. What's your problem? Again, cultural differences. Next slide. Okay, lessons learned. Time is precious. There's no way I'm going to make up those 9 months out of my life. Okay? You have rights, you got responsibilities. And life is not fair. Next slide. That's a quote from a book a friend of mine wrote that he was talking to my pilot the night before who said he'd never be taken alive. Next slide. My mom again. When I was about to go overseas, I said, Mom, we got to sit down and talk about combat. Nope, I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. Nope, I don't want to talk about it. So, okay. The only thing I could get her to listen to was there some crackpots going around who would call your house and say your kid got killed today. So I said, if somebody calls, tell them to come back in a week. If I haven't written to you, then you can believe them. Well, sure enough, the staff car shows up one day. Chaplain and base commander, all very somber. Gee, Ms. Marshall, really sorry to have to tell you your son's reported missing today. So that's nice, thank you, close the door. Beautiful, I love it. And they put in the report, informed mom, son missing, no emotional reaction. But that was her. She said, nothing I can do about it. Very cool. Next, and when we came home, I called her from the Philippines and said, okay, I'll be getting on an airplane. I don't know if they're going to take me to Travis or to Andrews. She said, well, they better bring you to Andrews because I'm not coming to California to pick you up. So they took me to Andrews. I get off the airplane. They tell the family to stand behind the line. My sister and my goddaughter come running across the line. My mother stays right where they told her. We go to the hospital. Give her some champagne. She has one sip of champagne. She says, okay, let's go. And the doctor comes out and says, oh no, we got to keep him for observation. And she went off on him. Said, y'all knew damn well what time this airplane was going to be here, and you had me out here 2 hours early. Now you tell me I can't take my kid home? I'm out of here. But she was funny. Next slide. That is my pilot's wife and kids, the unfortunate side to the story. I got okay, little side trip, TDY, but it took years for them to get any closure. They brought his body back, or his remains. It really split the family because mothers cannot replace their sons. And mother wanted the case kept open. Wife wants to get on with her life. She wants the case closed. That's one of the tragedies of the MIAs. Okay, next slide. My fun time. Like I said, I like to mess with people. So we got to go to the White House, and as you saw in Forrest Gump, got to meet the president again. So I gave my camera to the guy in front of me and said, just be ready. So you tell your name to the person, he tells his name to the president. The president says something to you, he says the same thing to everybody. Boring. So I get up there and shake his hand. He says, hi, welcome home. And I'm supposed to move on, but when he relaxed his grip, I tightened mine. And that was the expression on his face. And I expected him to say, boy, you better get out of my face. But he said, we're having a party in Georgetown and you're invited. And I thought, very good, Mr. President. And moved on. Next slide. Yeah, other way. Okay, I've used up my 9 lives and some of somebody else's. The ejection, several near mid-airs, people shooting at me. Like I said, I've used up mine. The thing at the bottom, driving on the Autobahn at 140. I was doing about 100 and something going across Kansas one time, come across a hill in a rainstorm. There's a car stopped in the middle of the road. But anyway, yeah. I've used up my 9 lives. Next slide.
Oh, I want to hear about your near drowning.
Oh, near drowning. I had the chance to go to Morgan State for a summer camp when I was in the 12th grade. And I can't swim. But I'm a frog on the water. So you go in the water and watch girls and everything, and I was having a great time. I go down the bottom of the pool, 18 feet, no problem. So I'm down there one day at 18 feet, and I decided I'm not going to push off, I'm just going to swim to the top. I got about within 8 feet of the surface, and I couldn't go up anymore. I had to go back to the bottom and push off. Almost drowned. When I was at the academy, you have to do a swim test to get it admitted. I said, I can't do it. I said, oh yeah, you can do it. Oh, can't do it. So they put me in remedial swimming. And they had the swim coach put me in the water. He says, okay, just relax. Okay, I'm relaxed. He said, now everybody can float. You know, your nose may only be above the water, but everybody can float. I said, all right, sure. I'm relaxed. He let me go. 8 feet down. I'm laying on the bottom at 8 feet down looking up at him. He said, oh, damn. But my buoyancy level is that of a brick. So all my effort is keep my head above water. So I'm not very good. That's why I didn't join the Navy. I joined the Air Force. Okay. Oh, I missed that back there. You guys know the difference between the Army and the Air Force?
Well, the Army, they're bullet stoppers and we're not.
Okay. Army lieutenant tells the troops, y'all go take that hill and I'll see you. Air Force, the airman straps the lieutenant in the airplane. Says, go get him, Ace. And if you don't come back, can I have your stereo? Yeah. Last thing, we had a accident at George. Airplane ran off the runway. Formation landing, he landed off the runway, hit the turnbuckle, blew a tire, the lead went around, got it back on the runway, off the runway again, into the dirt, come to a stop, okay, we're going to ground egress. Lower guard up, shoulder harness release, inside handle, outside handle. Except when he went to lower guard up, he pulled the handle. Back seater.
Oh my God.
Canopy went, seat didn't go. So he's sitting on a hot seat. Front seater crawls out and runs away. Back seater finally says, up, all right, climb out too. And then EOD came out and saved the seat. So now we got an accident investigation. I get to be in charge of it. So they said it can't happen. You know, the thing had gone top dead center but it had not gone over. They said, it can't happen. So we took 2 weeks to do it, but we finally duplicated it in the hangar. If all the tolerances line up exactly right, that thing will go almost and not fire. They covered that up. So, but that was the one life support thing we had at the end. They still insist it cannot happen. No explanation for it, but it actually happened. So, okay. That's it. Any questions? I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm going to get you guys out of here.
Keep going.
All right, keep going. All right.
Stories you're telling, we heard them all from the pilots. The same, got back, got this, and almost got
Yep.
it.
All right.
It really brings back memories. Thank you.
Let's stir up some memories. Next lie. Next. Okay, that's me, snot-nosed kid. Next one. My granddad was a sharecropper. Next one. That's what inspired me to go to the academy. That article that said, "You are nobody here." When I was there, I got to take care of the Falcons, which was great because that got me out of water polo. Next slide. You make some lifetime bonds in the military. We all know that. Rick McDowell in the lower left. Rick was with me that day he got shot down. He was, we were up looking for some guys, single ship. We didn't want an escort. They gave us an escort. 2 of the escorts got shot down, dumber than dirt. So I get to jail, and Rick wants to know about his shoot down. I can tell him all kinds of details, but I can't tell him why. But Rick was from Selma, Alabama, and they threw me and him in a cell together, and we hit it off like cats and dogs. Not because of the race, but because he was a Chevy guy and I was a Mopar guy. And we just argued tooth and nail. If he said it was Tuesday, I'd say it was Thursday. But that came into good use because if we ever got in a situation with the Vietnamese where we got in too deep, we would just start a race riot. And they would have no idea how to handle that. So, but Rick is #1 buddy of mine. Charlie Coolidge was my roommate at the academy. And back those days, we were just getting into race. Most of the guys there were from the South, had never been around black people. I'd been around a few white people. So they throw us in a room together. Okay. We eventually find out, hey, you're normal. But they say, I can't take you home because my daddy would kill both of us. But Charlie came into my room, I think it was 2nd year. And Charlie was failing. And I had broken the code. You know, go to bed at 9 o'clock, don't stay up till 12 or 1 o'clock studying. You're much better off if you're awake in class. So I convinced him to do that. His grades shot up, so his daddy loved me. His daddy was a Medal of Honor winner. But come senior year, Charlie says, hey, I'm getting married. I'm bringing my fiance out. So he brought her out, Daughters of Revolution from Mississippi. She didn't have any problem with me. She went home and told her folks that I was going to be in their wedding. They said, oh, no, you're not going to be in the wedding. So Charlie went down and told him, well, if he's not in the wedding, there's not going to be a wedding. Ooh. So when I showed up in Mississippi, everybody in town knew who I was. Very nice. But that's the type of friendships you make. Next slide. Fred Olmsted was my hero. He had 3 tours over there. Super guy. Next slide. Homecoming. That was a very emotional high. Coming home and we got the welcome that other people should have got. Mainly because we were a small group, the war was over, and they bent over backwards showering us with gifts and everything. Ford Motor Company said, go to Bot and pick out a car. It's yours for a year free. Okay. So I picked out one, and the first real reunion of the River Rats, which is everybody who flew up north, was going to be held in Vegas in '73. Well, I was down in George farting around, and it was 6 o'clock, and I had to be here at 8 o'clock. Simple math. All I got to do is do 90, no problem. It's 180 miles. So I'm making good speed. We get to Barstow, and it's traffic. So there's 3 of us. There's a Mustang, a Camaro, and me and my Ford. And we're taking turns being the leader, but we're stuck in traffic, and I'm in the tail end. So we get through the traffic. The Mustang gets out, and he gets a big lead on me. The Camaro gets out, gets a big lead. And I finally get out, and I floor it. And about that time, I see the highway patrol coming the opposite direction. 2 of them, cloud of dust, 4-wheel drift across the divider. The lead goes after the Mustang. The other one is behind us, so I get over and pretend like I'm a tree. He comes roaring by me, and I think, whew. And he looks over and says, "You, follow me." So I pull over. He comes back, takes my paperwork, goes up, writes up the Camaro. He comes back, looks in the window and says, "Who owns this car?" I say, "Sir, can I tell a lie? Mr. Ford owns it." "Well, how'd you get it?" So I pulled out my little letter. It says, "This guy's a POW, be nice to him." He says, "Follow me." So he goes up, talks to his buddy, comes back, hitches up his britches, hands me my paperwork. Says, "I'm going to cut you loose now, but don't let me catch you speeding on my highway again." As soon as he was out of sight, 120, and I made it.